What's going on, everyone? So, we've got the very last episode for my Corviknight tour from a few weeks ago. However, I would actually like to do something a little bit special today. So, we did recently hit 100 subscribers, which, I really appreciate those of you who have been here with me on the journey and helped us get to this point. Thank you very much. And I do want to do something a little bit special for the 100 subscriber celebration. And what I really want to do is kind of like offer a little piece of myself back to the community more than in just the format of Pokemon. So, one of the homies that I haven't really collaborated with too much myself, but who I know through one of the Discord channels, he has a YouTube channel called Out of EXP. Out of experience. And one of his first videos, he talked a little bit just about like his life itself and like how he got to the point where he is. And I just have a lot of respect for him for doing that because, yeah, we're like sharing Pokemon content. Yeah, we're like benefiting people through the medium of offering them Pokemon things, I suppose. But in my life, what I really am is a writer. And what I want to be able to do in my life is to be able to actually offer my knowledge and perspective to people in order to benefit the world moving forward in a certain sense, So I do see that, we can obviously use Facebook, or I mean, not Facebook, geez, YouTube as an outlet for things of that nature as well, like actually spreading knowledge and perspective and things like that. So I just want to take a chance to talk a little more about like life in general, like my life a little bit, and some of the more important thoughts that I've come across in my life. And I'm not going to get too into depth with sharing some of the like deeper knowledge in this video. I would really like it to be something that I can like continue doing more moving forward in separate videos. But what I do want to do today is give a little bit of like an intro into all of that while I'm playing this round of matches. So I will just like put the matches on. If you found this video by some happenstance and you don't care about Pokemon, feel free to, just listen, I suppose. But I will put the matches on for people, even though I do lose the first two. So, you got to understand, like, you can't win them all. But no, so I do want to just like talk a little bit about life and particularly how I got to the point that I'm at in my life. So, it's very highly tied into like some of the, I guess, lessons that will come out of it. So it feels a bit appropriate to start by talking about my life, right? Since it's my channel and, I'm the one giving the knowledge and things like that. So yeah, let's talk about how I guess, got to where I am. So when I think back on my life, there's certainly just many, many things that have happened, and I'm not going to start with the um, more turbulent childhood that I had because it's not really the childhood stuff that matters when it in the end of what we're going to be talking about, but really something that I've noticed throughout my life is just that it's really interesting how very, very small instances can have a massive impact on who you become as a person. So when you really think about your life, there can be moments that seem very nuanced or just like insignificant. I don't know what exactly the right word is in every situation, but there can be moments in your life that feel very insignificant that when you look back on them, you would have never become the person you are without those moments. So, like, the way that I often like to think about life is, everything you go through makes you who you are. And so you have to, like, take the good with the bad, right? Because, you wouldn't be who you are today without every little thing you ever went through happening specifically the way that it did. Because, one little action taken differently in life can change the next thought that you have in the day, which changes the next thought, which changes the next thought. So literally every little action that you do does add up to your life in general, and what is your life. So I definitely don't regret anything that I've gone through, but I do want to talk about the 3 experiences in my life that I think really made me who I am before we start to get into like the, I guess, knowledge aspect of the discussion. So yeah, in my life, when I was about 14, I started making some decisions which, while they didn't seem very big at the time, really allowed me to fully take my life into my own hands and kind of like make of it what I wanted, I suppose. So the first decision that really allowed me to like shape myself into who I was going to become is actually just deciding to start writing my dreams down. So up until I was 14, I really didn't care for writing, didn't care for reading, didn't care for. I really didn't think very hard. Let's just be honest. Like I was pretty smart, I suppose. Like, but I was very just floating through life, I suppose. Like just going with the motions. I don't know. But when I was in ninth grade, I just kind of had this really cool dream one time. And it wasn't even that cool of a dream, but what it really made me realize is that you spend so much of your life asleep that there's clearly a lot of things that happen when you're asleep, not only like your brain trying to think through ideas, but there's legitimate experiences that you accrue when you're asleep that whether or not you have conscious access to them all the time, they have a pretty heavy effect on how your life develops in some way or another. So I basically decided that I just wanted to start writing my dreams down and trying to familiarize better with that side of my life if it is, going to be so much time in my life, I suppose. I just wanted to get a better understanding and acquaintance of that side of life. So the real benefit that that had on me as a person, whether I, knew what was going to happen or not at that time, which I definitely didn't, was that it made me a lot more metacognitive of a person. So it made me start to really think about like, why do I have the thoughts that I have and why do I do the things that I do? And being able to really like start to take my decisions into my own hands instead of people largely just like making all of my decisions for me. So I literally chose to start writing my dreams down, and that became a pivotal part of my life without anybody having to tell me to make it a pivotal part of my life. So what you can really, I suppose, compare that to is somebody like picking up a hobby that they want to do generally for their own enjoyment, genuinely for their own enjoyment, and not because somebody else told them to. And I think these are some of the best things you can do in life, like things in your life that you do genuinely because you want to and not because you're being forced to, are some of the most, I think, not only like beneficial and to some degree motivating things, but the instances in your life where you really have the chance to make of it what you can, because I mean, you really are the person that makes the decisions about your own life. So, moving on from that, it just kind of allowed me to start actually developing a skill that was going to become very central to my life. Like, I really didn't care that much about writing. Like, I was probably okay at writing. I'm not going to lie about that. But, like, through starting to write my dreams down, this very little subtle aspect of my life quickly turned into one of my main passions. And so just by like choosing this one time to start writing my dreams down, it basically molded my entire life into me wanting to become a writer and wanting to actually try to develop a deeper thought process and to share my perspective on things with people. So if I had never actually started writing my dreams down like that, I would have never become who I am today, and I'm just really happy about that. So the second thing that happened in my life that made me really who I am today is I was just like walking around the mall one day with my dad, and it was probably like 6 months maybe after I started writing my dreams down, and I just saw the cover of a book that looked interesting. Hyperspace by Michio Kaku was the book, and it had like a cube on the cover with like a melting clock and like all this like crazy stuff, and I was like, oh, this looks interesting. Turns out it was my very first real exposure to the topic of theoretical physics and a deeper understanding of science. So I mean, like, I've always loved science. I'm a science teacher right now. Like, I'm a middle school science teacher, 6th and 8th grade. And I went to college for sciences, and well, I ended up majoring in philosophy, but it makes sense. Like, so I have a big background in science. But when I was 14, I read my very first like just super like thick theoretical physics book for being like 14 or 15 especially, and I just absorbed it. Like, I don't really remember any of it now, but what I really got out of it is that it was another one of those experiences where I realized just how important it is for you to be the one that's making the decisions for yourself in life. So, what I could have easily done is just, gone through my life just like waiting for people to tell me what to do. Like, oh yeah, like you are going to learn about this. Like, do you want to do this? Do you want to do that? Like, no. What I basically got to the point of was that after reading this book and then starting to read some other books like Incognito by David Eagleman, Exploring the World of Lucid Dreams by Stephen LaBarge, that was the third book I read. I think An Elegant Universe by Brian Greene was the fourth book. And then I started just like going back and forth from like psychology to physics to philosophy, psychology to physics to philosophy. And I was just like cycling back and forth every time between different things. But what I really started to realize at that time was basically exactly what I just said earlier, which is that, like, you have the ability to make yourself who you want to be. And you can do that so much better when you are actually making the decisions for your life instead of just letting other people make the decisions for your life. And so, I mean, making good decisions kind of goes into that, right? Like, you hopefully make good decisions. But I started reading because I wanted to. I wasn't just learning anything that people was telling me to learn. I was taking it upon myself to expand my brain in ways that I wanted to expand my brain, not just because somebody was telling me to, but because I felt like that was the right thing to do, or because I was just inquisitive and curious in that way. So starting to read, I think, was really important for me to do on my own, because what it really allowed me to do was to say, I'm going to become this person. And yeah, I started just reading about what I wanted to know, started expanding my mind. And what it really led up to was me in 12th grade, that is, starting to actually write my thoughts down. And that is what I would say is the most important, like one of the most important things that's ever like I've done that actually helped me become who I am. Because when I started actually writing my ideas down, not only was it like something that I really cared about doing and like creating something that I could give back to the world, but it also gave me the chance to reflect more deeply on my own thoughts and what I wanted to believe in as a person, or like what perspective on life I wanted to take. Because I think as people, it's really easy to just kind of go through life thinking the way you think. And the beauty of becoming more metacognitive, which means like thinking about your own thoughts, is that you can look at the way that you look at things or the way that you do things and choose whether or not that's the way that you want to continue doing them. And so when I started to write my thoughts down, I started to write things down about like what I thought the universe was, like what I thought God might be if God was real. But some of the, I think, more beneficial things for me to start writing about was the idea of self-talk and like self-referential statements. So like it's really metacognition, but like what actually happens to you as a person when you start to think about your own thinking and you start to become more conscious and cognizant of your own realizations and drives as a person. So something that I basically realized is that you can sit there and like listen to yourself thinking basically, or listen to yourself like being in a certain mood, and you really, the I guess the way that I put it is like pay attention to the way that you talk to yourself because you're the one that's listening. But so when you have a thought like I believe this, I want to do this, you can actively register that as like not just you believing something, but you being aware of yourself believing that, or you being aware that you want to do that. And so what it really does is it makes you develop a understanding of self-will that is a bit more internally driven and less susceptible to, I want to say, traps of um, complacency, or like just like letting yourself be very whatever. Like I'm just gonna go with the flow and just not care about it, right? But no. So what you really start to do when you become more metacognitive is you can look at your beliefs and say to yourself like, oh, I believe that X should have never happened. And then you can sit there and like listen to yourself and say, okay, so I'm registering my own belief as like, I believe this. Um, is that something that I actually want to keep believing in the future? Or is it something that I want to change to be different? And so when you are aware of your own awarenesses, it creates basically like a crossing path in your own mind that allows you to decide if you want to keep having the thoughts that you're having, or the drives that you're having in life. So you can like listen to your own self and say like, oh, I just got really pissed right there. Like, I need to internalize why I just got really pissed and if I want to keep being pissed. So, like, by being aware of your own mental state, you can choose whether that mental state continues to persist or not. When you are feeling really lazy and you're like, man, like, I didn't brush my teeth yesterday. Like, and then you become like, you're consciously aware that you didn't do something that you should do. And so in that moment, if you're metacognitive enough to understand that you have the opportunity, you can say to yourself, okay, I just became aware that I didn't do something I wanted to do. So in the future, when I get put in that position, I'm going to literally make myself do it. And so you have the, sorry, I'm just looking at my computer lagging. You have the ability to basically make your life what you want of it by becoming more thoughtful of your own thoughts, basically. And I really just kind of saw that develop in my early life between the ages of 14 and 18 when I just chose to do what I wanted to do, honestly. Like it's really beautiful. Like and there was so much that went into it that it's like it's really serious. Like I basically realized that like with this mind state on things, you could literally say to yourself like, okay, I don't know X. I'm aware that I don't know X. I'm going to go learn it. And in that way, you can actively expand your mind at the rate that you want to expand your mind and not at the rate that other people are trying to allow you to do so. So there's really so much that goes into it. And I kind of realized that like there's probably people who have never even thought that metacognitively about their life until they were literally like 40 or something. And then that made me realize just how important the compounding of time's effect can be. Like, what is the effect on your life of realizing something when you're 15 compared to realizing something when you're 40 and you have so much less time to benefit from it, I suppose, because there's also certain decisions in life that are going to be just that crucial when you're young, that like if you don't make them when you have the chance, it's going to disbenefit you very greatly, or you're just going to miss a opportunity completely. So I do think that it's just so important to pay attention to your own thoughts and to be aware of like, oh, I'm stuck in X thought process. Like I'm being really negative all the time. And then to be able to sit there and listen to yourself and be like, well, do I want it to be that way? What is it about life that's making me feel this way all the time? And through your own metacognition to really be able to like unpack everything in your life and what you want to make your life into. And I think the reason that it's so important for me is, well, not just because it allowed me to like get to develop this like store of things that I think are really, really important to tell people about. But it's things that like when you get in a really, really rough position in life, it's it's easy to know these things and then to allow yourself to slip out of it. So I think it's just really nice to like it's nice to be able to return back to the idea of how much your life really is in your own hands, because even as somebody who has literally like unlocked all these thoughts for myself, I still find myself having, times where I'm just incredibly negative and I just can't even get out of it. And it's like, it's really more about life positioning than it is about being aware of all this stuff. So I think something that's really important in life is to just be aware that like even when you're in a really unhappy point in your life, you need to remember not to let yourself succumb to these things where like I literally know myself, like the disbenefit of being stuck in a negative thought process, and I know the tools for getting out of it because I literally taught myself them. But I find it incredibly difficult in certain life positions to be able to actually bring myself back to that thought process. So I think it's something that people benefit a lot from. I don't know, like I guess just developing a good understanding of what it really means to have self-dialogue and to be able to listen to the thoughts that are going on in your own head and to be able to apprehend them for the way that they are. Because what's really, I think, pivotal about life is that the way that you view life determines your experience in life. And that's, I think, the thing that I was really trying to come around to, that I was having trouble thinking of how to put it into words. But like, being able to listen to the way that you talk to yourself is so important, because when you're being really negative all the time and you're just constantly like putting yourself down, like, I can't do this, I can't do that, like, I'll never be able to uh, overcome X, it really does condition the way that you view life to say things like that to yourself, to the point where your active experience of life is dictated by things like that. And a really better example, I think, is more so not only like affective emotional side of things, but literally within like the knowledge oriented side of things. So in life, when you literally don't know something, like let's say you didn't know gravity was a thing, or one of my favorite examples is like, let's say that you're in a foreign country and you don't know their language. When you look at everything, you have no clue what's happening. Like, your active experience of the world around you is very confined by that. So when you don't know a language, or you like don't know gravity exists or something, and it's literally just like constantly around you, your active experience of the world is not going to be able to integrate that. Whereas if have that metacognitive mind state and you can say to yourself, I don't know this. I just registered that I don't know this, meaning that I'm consciously aware that I don't know this. And now you can seek out trying to change the way you view it and actually reincorporating that back into your life, or, incorporating it for the first time. So in life, I think we have the chance to just really, like I said, just make ourselves into who we want to be. And this is really important because the more you take your own life into your own hands, and the more that you do the opening up of yourself instead of just waiting for others to do it for you, the more that you can really revolutionize your outlook on life and really start to like, I feel like I said this multiple times, like, just make your life really what you want it to be. And so just something that I think is really beautiful is having the ability to be metacognitive in that way, and just to say to yourself, like, okay, so I've been in a really like negative mind state recently, like I'm constantly putting myself down, and I need to pay attention to the reasons, the things that are making me want to do that, and then actively like countering it so that my perspective on life will not continue to be like dictated experientially with that sort of negative tonation, So your experience of the world is so heavily influenced by the thoughts that are happening in your head, that when you start to become metacognitive and actually choosing the thoughts that are in your head, you really just put yourself in the position to view the world in the way that is kind of like, I guess, like self-discovery and world discovery. Like, you can actively expand your understanding of the world more than what you are just I don't know, like forced upon you if you don't think about it very hard. So I'm gonna try to stop there since I know we are at about the end of this video. Sorry if I was rambling there. I think it can just be it can be hard to express, I feel like, how important the idea is of paying attention to the way that you talk to yourself internally, the things that you want to do as a person, and just the perspective that you have as an individual, because you really are the one who is in the position to, once you become that metacognitive, to actually choose the way that your life continues to develop. And what that really allowed me to do is just radically open my mind in ways that I've just developed a perspective that just not a lot of people have. And like, it sounds like such like a weird, like pompous thing to say, but like, it's something that I think you know, I want to talk about in future videos instead of just talking really generally about how the three most important experiences in my life made me more metacognitive and made me actually think about, like, how can I actively become the person that I'm trying to be by not just waiting for other people to, like, help me get there, but by actually, like, taking my life into my own hands and saying to myself, like, I don't know this, I'm going to learn this, and then I do. I don't do this, I'm going to do this, and then I do. And what it really, I think, just culminates to is, if you go about it right, you can develop a very, very critical mind state that, I don't know, it's just really important to, like, think critically about life and to not be somebody who just, like, accepts the way that everybody tells them to think, and to, be able to actually rationalize your own meaning for things. And not only that, but to, like, be able to say to yourself, like, I want this perspective or outlook on life, and I'm not going to allow myself to keep, like, holding myself back from it, I suppose. So I don't know, like, obviously, there's things in life like facts that, your outlook should be dictated on a certain, way that reality actually works. But for those type of things, those are more the things that fall in the realm of, like, I don't know this yet and I want to learn this, as opposed to, like, I need to stop looking at the world X way because the way that it's making me actively experience the world is not something that's necessary, and to a degree is unfavorable. So you really do have the ability to take your life into your own hands and to control the way that you view the world, even though it is really easy to, even when knowing all of those things, to fall back into a very, like, negative mind state and to just kind of, like, let it all slip. So I don't know, like, it's a balance, and it's more than anything, you just gotta be aware of your own mind. And that's what I want to talk about in future videos without rambling as much as I did today, is just, like, what does it actually mean to be a metacognitive person, and what is the actual nature of consciousness? Because I talked in a very, like, roundabout way today, and was kind of being jumbly at times, but some things that I have come across in my life thinking about are definitely things that just not everybody actually comes to a moderately satisfying answer for. And some of the things that I want to talk about in the future are going to be things that I think are just really that important. Like, things that I've actually come up with adequate answers for that people are probably going to be like, wait, what? Like, you actually think you have an answer for that to some degree? To which my answer is yes, I actually have thought deeply about certain things to have answers for them. So, right, as we all have, but no, so some things that I think are really important that I've thought about that I want to be able to share with the world that not that many people I think have been as metacognitive as me for so long and delved into certain topics that they won't have thought of these things. So some things that I want to talk about in the future is the nature of good and evil. So does good and evil actually exist? Is it possible to do bad things? Is it possible to do good things? Is good and evil an inherent force in the universe? I know the answer, or at least I like to think so. Is fate a real thing? Are our actions predetermined, or do we actually have the ability to control our actions? I have an answer for that one as well. We could also talk about religion to a degree, and we can talk about, what might happen after we die. I do have some experiential knowledge with that, as well as just thoughts, I suppose, through a critical lens. And so, I'll do a better job presenting my thoughts more critically in the next video, where if we start to talk more concretely about things like that, instead of just talking about the benefit of being aware of your own thoughts and thinking about your own thinking. So we can talk about that in the future. And we can also, like I said, talk about the actual nature of consciousness, because what it does come a lot back around to is some of the things that we just talked about, which is like, what does it actually do to you as a person to become aware that you're aware of something? And what actually separates two people's experience of existence? So those are some things that I hope to talk about in the future. Sorry if I was rambling there towards the end, like I know I was. But hopefully I imparted something worth thinking about how, your life is really in your hands to a large degree, when you have the ability to do something about something you're aware of that you're not doing yet, but that you could be in that position if you just kind of like made yourself instead of waiting for someone to make you. Because like the greatest things in life are not just gonna like be handed to you on a silver platter. They're just really not. Like, if you're one of the luckiest freaking rich people in the world, right, like everything's going to be handed to you on a silver platter. But even in that situation, somebody like that is likely not going to be metacognitive enough to have stumbled on some of the most key understandings, I think, in life. So you really do want to think hard enough to be unlocking understandings for yourself. Because if you are that metacognitive, you can really just like grapple with certain, I think, inconsistencies in life that allow you to just benefit your perspective really well and to allow you to like keep growing as a person. So and just like viewing life with that critical lens really is important. So like constantly be thinking about your own thoughts and like, does this make sense? Why does it make sense? Why am I doing what I'm doing? Do I want to keep doing what I'm doing? What decisions could I be making right now that I'm not making? One of my favorite quotes is, "How many thoughts have I not had?" It's my quote. I technically came up with it, but yeah. How many thoughts have you not had, and how would having those thoughts benefit your ability to understand reality? So I'll leave you with that to think about. And with that being said, just thanks. Thank you guys for being here, and hopefully I can just start to give back to you guys in a way that not only shows that I appreciate you guys for being here for my Pokemon channel and being part of my growing channel with the 100 subs and whatever, but I want to be able to give you a piece of me really as a person, and not just as a Pokemon player, but as a philosopher and as somebody who has unlocked thoughts in life that I think are really, really useful for people to have the chance to think about. So, yeah, with that being said, I want to be able to give back to you guys, and so just thanks, and tune in for the next one, hopefully. So thank you guys.